Greetings, it's Íric Baker, the naturopath. Thanks for tuning in to my presentation. During the past 30 odd years of my naturopathic career, I've seen a lot of patients suffering from parasitic infections. Many of them are absolutely clueless, maybe like you are right now. And with over about 20%, estimated 20 to 24% of the world's population being exposed to parasites or parasitic infections, it's become a major area of concern for many people. There are many resources online today that try to educate you about the disease, but a lot of this information is actually put together by people who've never seen any patients whatsoever. So there's scope for ambiguity that comes with all that, of course. However, there are people out there like me who've seen many people over a prolonged period of time who actually suffer with parasitic infections. So please watch this video, and I'm going to put together some of my experiences and try and break some clout behind parasitic infections. Most of the patients who consulted me tested positive for parasites are very scared of parasites. In fact, freakily scared of parasites. They immediately get these crazy visions of monsters with slimy hooks and swords and all sorts of weird kind of creatures, like out of some sort of sci-fi movie. Something that rips your intestines apart, something with 4 heads and 100 teeth, something that wriggles out of your bottom, wriggles around in the toilet. You imagine, I've heard all the stories, but these are just figments of people's imaginations. I can assure you, it's not that common to have 12-foot worms wriggling around on your bathroom floor. And I mean, these are some of the comments I've seen. So, but how do you actually know if you've got a parasite in your body right now? Well, most parasites are extremely small. In fact, so small a microscope can barely pick up, or detect these parasites. So often you need something like a PCR test. PCR tests are very specific tests. They scan the DNA strands in the stool sample to determine if there's parasites or not. So you really need a high-tech test to see things that the eye can't see. Because as we all know, genetics don't lie. I really believe that people should listen to their bodies a whole lot more. An early diagnosis of an infection really helps. Now you may ask, how do we diagnose such an infection? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I've made a full video highlighting the 10 signs that your body might show up if you actually suffer from a parasitic infection. I really would like you to watch this video before we actually go ahead and discuss parasites in more detail. So let's now talk about the shocking truth about parasite infection rates. Oftentimes my patients see parasitic infections as a problem faced only by people in underdeveloped countries and by developing countries. But I can tell you guys now, that's not true at all. With air travel global now, people flying all over the world, it's slowed down with COVID of course, but the air travel's been incredible, and basically we're just moving parasites around from one part of the world to another. A randomized study conducted in 2000 by the American Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene made a really shocking discovery. They tested, I'm just reading off a report here, 2,896 random people from 48 states in the US, and they found that 1 in 3, that's right, 32% of the US population were infected by any one number of up to 18 different microscopic parasites. So further studies by the American Center for Disease Control, the CDC, showed that the infection rate of pinworms amongst all ages is a whopping 11.4% in the US and 15.5% worldwide. That's a lot of parasite. So now you're asking, can parasite infections go away on their own accord? Patients ask me this all the time, and again, if the parasites can go away on their own accord, or what measures, active measures, can they take to manage these infections? Well, it's highly unlikely that parasites go away completely on their own accord. Now, we've got limited time, but I could spend at least an hour discussing with you about a dozen cases. So in this presentation, I'm just going to talk about a few, but one case in particular comes to mind of a man in his late 30s who worked as a guy, driving around in a van, servicing people's equipment in their home with electrical equipment. Electrical guy, basically. And this man had a honeymoon about 10 years before. He got married in his late 20s, went to Fiji. It was either Samoa or Fiji, one of those islands. And when he came back, he had a sore digestive system. He had basically had loose bowel motions and diarrhea. So he went to the doctor. And he went to the doctor and he got checked out, and they found nothing wrong with this guy. So they gave him antibiotics. And of course it didn't work. He had a parasite, but they hadn't detected this parasite. So this man went back to the doctor several times. Anyway, after about 18 months of antibiotics, his digestive system was virtually destroyed. Now this man for 10 years, on and off, suffered so bad he had to chuck his job and he couldn't work anymore driving around because he had to find a lavatory up to 10 times a day, 8 to 10 times a day, until he came to my clinic and we started to stool test. And we found it. We found multiple parasites as well as a rampant yeast infection in this man. So parasites don't go away of their own accord. And when they're falsely treated with antibiotics, all you do is destroy the beneficial bacteria, allowing a subsequent overpopulation of yeasts, weeds, I call them weeds like yeast, and more parasite infections. You're opening the door essentially. So in my experience, most parasite infections relapse. But why does this happen? Isn't the doctor giving me the right medication to eradicate this infection? Well, there are many reasons why. Let's talk about a couple of different reasons. So the first reason is excessive intake of antibiotics. I've spoken about this and beaten this drum for so many years now. I've worn a hole in the drum skin, literally, from talking about this problem. One day these drugs will not be used like candy as they have been for too long. The problem with antibiotics and other drugs like anthelmintics, which are basically anti-parasite drugs, you may have read that word anthelmintic, they indiscriminately target and wipe out just about everything in your gut, including beneficial bacteria that make your immune system very weak when we eliminate these. So as soon as we take the good guys out, the bad guys can really step up. Parasites are like germs. They're everywhere. They seek environments with weak defense systems where they can set up camp. No different from gangs coming to town with low law enforcement rates where not much is done. And we see that all over US, we see that all over Europe, we're seeing it everywhere. So excessive antibiotics. Antibiotics do squat for parasites. They target bacteria, remember? I've made many videos on why antibiotics have, really bad for your gut health. And instead of only targeting the bad guys, they wipe out the beneficial. And this can really help to push up a really bad parasite infection as well. So, and the other point is, number 2, is parasites can become resistant to pharmaceutical drugs. Now you can go to Google now and have a look. There are hundreds of studies that will actually validate that statement, that they become resistant. I've heard this story time and time again. Eventually drugs just do nothing at all because the parasites become so resistant. And remember, the beneficial bacteria are probably plummeting at this stage because of multiple rounds of antibiotics, right? So the parasites and the bad guys invite more friends around, and they have a big party. I can't tell you how many people I've seen in the past 20 to 30 years who went down the conventional route. They got put on pharmaceuticals, they saw results for 1 to 3 months, and then boom, they ended up sick all over again. Almost 90% of people I've seen with parasite infections will say exactly that. They went to the doctor, they got put on some type of a drug, they may have had a very limited stool test done, and then the drug didn't work, or partially, and they got put on the drug again and again and again. I feel like the studies that prove these drugs are highly effective against parasites are potentially dubious, because most of my patients showed some parasitic problem even a year down the track after treatment. So they didn't fully really eradicate this problem. So natural or drug treatment for parasites, what's more effective? So what actually works for parasitic infections? If you ask me honestly, I think to eradicate parasites from their roots, one must use the natural cause, or natural way out, not natural cause, but natural treatment. I see it as more effective. When I see natural treatment, I'm not talking about a patient going to Amazon or iHerb and getting a $10 wormwood tablet, or maybe some clove tincture, or some type of a medicine which they think in inverted commas, is going to cure their disease. And then along with that, they pay lip service to their diet and have a handful of pumpkin seeds. Maybe they may have some echinacea or vitamin C or something that any one of a dozen naturopaths or doctors told them to take. So this is what most people do. And when they get results, they say, Eric, this natural stuff doesn't work. It's, and then I say, what a load of crap. It does work, but you have to work. Okay, you have to do the work. You have to eat the right foods. It's going to take time to clear this infection up. It's not going to happen in 5 minutes. You've got to focus on your overall gut health. You've got to transform this gut into a place that becomes inhospitable for parasites to really, set up camp. So I'd like to take the time and explain to you the gut structure by a diagram. So the way the digestion works is food passes through your digestive system and it ends up in the small bowel, where the food particles, which have been broken down, rub against millions and millions of tiny microscopic little bristles, you could call them, that line the gut wall. So these bristles are called microvilli. In healthy people, these microvilli are coated with a layer of mucus, and friendly bacteria lives in this mucus, the mucous membrane. We call this the brush border. If you look under your vacuum, you'll often see a little brush there. It's sort of similar, it's like a brush. And the brush contains mucus, and good bacteria live in there. Enzymes are produced by these bacteria. They break down foods, for example. They fight off bugs, they fight off parasites or other gut pathogens that happen to pass by. So you could think of it like the railway station with police, up and down, lining up and down the boardwalk there to keep an eye on people. But when these good bacteria are no longer present, parasites and other bugs move in, gangs move in, bad guys move in, and they start causing problems. And of course, we all know one bad guy attracts another bad guy, and then we end up giving a whole camp of these bad guys. Once we get rid of these bad guys, who've colonized the microvilli and replaced them with good guys or friendly, your life's going to change so much. It's going to turn around, and I've seen this in so many cases. I really like patients to focus on this brush border and get the gut back in high spec. This is how you get excellent health, mental health, physical health. It really does. It really is a game changer. Now, you can't do this with pharmaceutical drugs. They trash the gut. They wipe out the good guys. They're very narrow band, scientifically formed synthetic creations, basically. Natural medicines are different. They're visibly better than drugs. They allow you to target the parasites without slamming the bad bacteria. That way you kill parasites and build up gut health at the same time. And once the parasites are gone and they keep going down and the beneficials come up and your immune system's powerful, you're not going to get these guys back again in a hurry. And number two, you can take a natural antiparasitic supplement for many months at the same time, and particularly when you take it along a high quality probiotic product. This will keep hammering those bad guys, and it will stop them from building high counts, and it will allow the good guys to build good counts. I've been working on this approach now for 30 years plus, and I can tell you right now, when it comes to gut problems, the natural approach beats the pharmaceutical approach down, hands down, every single time, except for maybe very rare cases where all options have been exhausted for the patient. But remember, in most cases, patients come to my doorstep once they've had 3, 6, 12 or 2 years worth of treatment for antiparasitics that ended up in a dead end. They end up on our doorstep. So I can tell you now from my experience, the natural treatment absolutely does work. But very rare cases are indeed very, very rare. And in those cases, there's going to be a fallout for the patient and side effects, from pharmaceuticals that will need to be cleaned up over time. But in all my years of experience, I've only ever seen a handful of cases that did not respond positively to natural treatment. In a previous video, I've compiled my 30 years of experience in 10 to 11 minutes to explain how to get rid of parasitic infections by natural medicines. I suggest you have a look at it and give it a go. What are the most effective natural herbs for killing parasites? Now that we've established that it's best for you to opt for a natural way to treat parasite infections, it's good to know the herbs that are the best to make these bad guys stay away from ruining your health. My naturopathic clinic personally has tried over 100 parasite killing products, well over 100, and many herbal medicines in different combinations and different strengths. I've consistently found the following aids to work, especially when you combine them all together. My list of essential herbs that one must take to fight parasites is quite basic, and most of the things can be found in your kitchen. So let's talk about some of these natural ingredients. The first one is aged garlic extract. Garlic has an incredible amount of medicinal virtues, and it works because it contains allicin. It's an oily yellow liquid that gives garlic its characteristic smell. Many studies have been conducted of allicin in the last 100 years. There's a good little book you can buy by a doctor called Benjamin Lau, L-A-U, I think, with an incredible amount of research on garlic. It's been shown to work on everything from one-cell parasite organisms like Blastocystis to larger species like pinworms and even flatworms and hookworms. It's very potent, it's antibacterial and antifungal. And remember, people have been consuming garlic for thousands of years, likely for keeping their gut clean, long before any type of pill was invented. But remember, not all garlic is created equal. Try and avoid garlic that comes from mainland China. I'm not racist or disrespectful, it's just when we have a look at the agricultural standards from China, I'm quite worried about garlic grown in China to be consumed by humans. We all know that garlic is a great uptaker of heavy metals. I'll let you do your own due diligence on that one. Choose a supplement that contains a good garlic extract, preferably a high allicin and aged extract. Eating 1 or 2 cloves a day isn't going to do much for you for the majority. It's still good adjunct to eat garlic, but if you want to treat the parasite effectively, garlic should be used as a medicine. So go with a supplement that lists allicin with at least a 2% strength. You may think 2% sounds puny and small and it's not going to do much, but that is an incredibly large amount of allicin. And it'll get released in your digestive system, where it has a very strong kill effect on over 800 different types of bacteria, lots of different types of candida, and many parasitic species. But guess what? Garlic is also a prebiotic, so it doesn't kill all the good bacteria. It's never been my experience with stool tests anyway. The second ingredient we'll talk about is clove oil. So clove contains one of the most powerful anti-parasite agents in the herbal kingdom, something called eugenol. This compound travels through the bloodstream and kills microscopic parasites, larvae and eggs. Lab studies have shown clove oil to be effective against many common parasites, including Blastocystis and even Giardia, many forms of bad bacteria like Clostridium difficile, so C. diff. It works by inhibiting the growth of the parasites and making them shrivel up, so your immune system can get in there and tick them off. All right? Clove oil stops parasites from attaching to things, especially the intestines or that brush border area, so it'll be easy for you to excrete them and pass them through. It's also highly effective against yeast. Clove, interestingly enough, was worn by doctors around their face during the bubonic plague period, if you remember. The third one we'll talk about is black walnut hull extract, something very malaligned with many people. Many people believe they can cure all parasite problems with just a bottle of black walnut drops, but I've never found that to be the case. So black walnut contains stuff called tannins. Tannins are quite astringent, and you'll see them in tea and you'll see them in many other foods and beverages. One of the tannins is called juglone. So black walnut trees secrete juglone from their roots to stunt the growth of competing plants and trees, which is why nothing grows around them really. And that black stuff, you don't want to get that on your clothes, I'll tell you, it's not nice. According to a study from the University of Mississippi from 1999, juglone was more effective at wiping out worms, parasites and yeasts than commercially available pharmaceutical drugs. Right? So it creates a toxic environment for many parasites without harming you or your beneficial bacteria. Don't worry if you're allergic to nuts. You really shouldn't get a problem with juglone. But again, the warning has to be on the bottle. Let's talk about grapefruit seed extract, one of my favorites. This is number 4. or GSE, I call it GSE. So back in the 70s, early 70s, I think it was 1971 or 72, there was a guy called Dr. Jacob Harich who discovered that there's something in GSE that sets it beyond anything else we've ever discovered in the natural medicine kingdom. He'd been looking for one of the world's strongest substances, natural substances, that could sterilize and cleanse. Soon after the food industry picked up its use, the hospital used it as an antiseptic to clean wounds. They found it could reduce the risk of infection during surgery. It was even used in municipal swimming pools and Olympic swimming pools because it killed E. coli, bacteria like that. But then in 1980, the American Research Institute tested it and discovered that GSE was so powerful it could kill hundreds and hundreds of species of dysbiotic bacteria, many strains of fungi, and a large number of both single and multi-cell parasites were also affected by this as well. So knowing history helps, I tell you. I advise my patients to take GSE. It won't harm beneficial bacteria anywhere near the way antibiotics do harm it. But when you take really high doses of GSE for several months, which I've seen people do, you can slam them, but they come back very quick. So it depends on the dose, but we're talking ridiculously high doses to affect the beneficials. And that's something I've only ever seen a handful of people do, in that concentration. You can make your own GSE at home if you want. You get grapefruit seeds and the pith or the white rind of the flesh, but it's extremely bitter, so bitter that you'll probably have a hard time swallowing it. That's why I recommend you get it in a tablet form. Even the liquid drops can be very off-putting for many people. So don't worry if you can't eat grapefruit because of pharmaceutical interactions if you're on drugs. You can still take supplements containing GSE. It really shouldn't be too much of a problem. Unless you're taking, again, 10, 15, 20 pharmaceuticals a day like some people do, then you may want to ask your doctor what's going on. So let's talk about berberine. Berberine is what we call an alkaloid. It's another chemical, and it's also found in plants like golden seal, for example. It's been used to treat intestinal parasites and diarrhea, and also SIBO. Many people with SIBO get diarrhea. The Chinese have been recommending berberine for centuries, probably 1,000+ years. Don't let the fact that it's kind of an antibiotic worry you. Again, berberine will not really destroy the beneficial bacteria. When you get a berberine supplement, make sure that you get a berberine concentrate HCl, okay? So don't just get golden seal extract. The HCl means it's going to be a stronger version. Berberine's been shown to be effective even against tapeworm cysts that have become MDR, or we call MDR, multi-drug resistant, and would otherwise require surgery to prevent them from rupturing or spreading to organs like, the liver, for example. I remember reading a study that was published in, I think it was 2013 or 14. It found berberine extract 100% stops parasites like tapeworms and hookworms from attaching to the gut wall and maturing into the advanced stages where they multiply. Berberine has known to do this to so many intestinal parasite species. It's very effective against some of the nastiest bacteria, particularly some of the more nasty versions of staph that can be resistant, staphylococci bacteria that can be resistant to antibiotics. Let's talk about neem. Neem has been used in natural medicine in India for thousands of years, probably 3,000 or 4,000 years. That's a long time. It's a natural pesticide. You can buy it in garden centres to spray on your cucumbers and your cauliflowers. It's toxic to intestinal parasites, and it's often used as an insecticide on crops. Again, don't believe anything I say. Go to Google, do your own due diligence. You'll find neem is an outstanding plant for internal use. It contains a chemical called azadirachtin, and it's very toxic to the nervous system of intestinal parasites. Neem's also great for repelling flies, for example, and many insects. It promotes the excretion of parasites through the stool. So one way of putting it is that it numbs parasites, puts them into a sleepy comatose state so you can easily excrete them. Neem also contains 3 powerful antifungal and antibacterial compounds that are called gunidin, nimbin, and nimbindin. I'm not going to say that again. So the gudinium or gudinum in particular has been shown to kill parasites involving malaria. So these compounds are concentrated in the oil and seeds. So although the bark I think contains some stuff in there as well. So neem's a beautiful tree. My time in India, I can remember people using it, the neem sticks for brushing their teeth, giving them beautiful gums. Some of the best teeth I've ever seen were people in India. So let's talk about oregano oil or oregano oil. That's number 7. Oregano is one of my favourite plants in the kitchen. I grow many varieties of oregano, and particularly the true Greek one because it's so strong. It almost burns your tongue when you eat it like garlic. So oregano oil, like most other herbs on my list, is a broad spectrum antifungal, antimicrobial and anti-parasite. I love oregano. It's one of the best plants you can get. Recent studies have shown that oregano oil is effective against bacteria that have become resistant to antibiotics. Again, do your own Google search. It contains many plant chemicals that are toxic to parasites. And these chemicals also aid in the detoxification through liver pathways. Chemicals what we call cavacrol, thymol, and rosmarinic acid, which you'll obviously find in rosemary as well. So this was demonstrated in a clinical study when a group of parasitic infected patients were given 600 milligrams of oregano oil each day for 6 weeks. 100% of those people experienced a reduction in parasite levels, and 77% of all of the people showed no parasites after 6 weeks. Right? Isn't it interesting? They also experienced a reduction in intestinal dysfunction, fatigue, and many other symptoms. So it's really advantageous to add the oregano oil in the mix, remember, as well as the clove and all the other things that we said, because the parasites don't develop a resistance to it. So many other naturopaths over the years and medical doctors and people I've worked with and know have told me I need to upgrade my approach. I need to get more into, the newer stuff that's coming out. But I can tell you guys out there, I've worked with this protocol and refined it over decades and found it consistently works. Now, you'll know yourself, if you do something and you get great results consistently, why would you want to change? There are, however, some side effects of parasite cleanse that you should know before going all in, right? I'll talk about this at length in my earlier video, so take the time out to go through it, as I really believe in full disclosure. Can parasites become resistant to natural supplements? Well, earlier in our discussion, I said that parasites are intelligent because they know how to build resistance. But in the case of natural ingredients, it's not true. But why? Because they've got many different natural chemicals and compounds that make up the plant. It's not just one thing. When we look at a pharmaceutical medication, it's one specific chemical and has one specific narrow band of action. And that's why it often fails to produce the favorable outcome. Nature has provided plants for so many diseases, which are very complex compounds of flavonoids and so many chemicals in them that all achieve that specific aim. Neem, for example, has been shown to contain over 300 different chemical compounds in it. So the same is true for the other plants I mentioned, like garlic and clove. That's why I call it the shotgun effect. They attack parasites from so many different angles, so the parasites get overwhelmed. The parasites don't know what hit them. They can't fight back. They're being hit from so many angles with so many different types of plant-based compounds. And, as I mentioned, the pharmaceuticals are synthetic. They're made of one thing, an ultra-refined chemical compound with a very little narrow band of action. So once the parasite develops a resistance, which is quite easy against one chemical, it'll genetically change. And the pharmaceutical drug is done. And then the next pharmaceutical drug comes in, etc., etc. So this is why I tell patients to get a natural broad spectrum formulation that's got all of these ingredients in it. Instead of going the pharmaceutical route every time, that way you don't have to rotate several different products all the time. You take one good quality proven formula instead of 6 or 8 bottles of different things. And this formula will continue to work because the bugs don't get resisted to it. The only thing you need to really work out and keep in mind, natural supplements take time to show tangible results. You won't be parasite free in 24 hours. It's good to follow a regime for 3 to 4 months at the minimum if you're chronic, if not 6 months. So my reply to you, if you said, Eric, how long do I need to take a really good anti-parasite formula for, then my question to you would be, how long were you on the antibiotic for? What's your gut like? How sick are you? What are you eating? How are you living? All those questions come into it. Every case is different, as you can imagine. The man I spoke of previously, who'd been sick for 10 years, took 6 to 12 months to come right. But he came right very quickly. But I kept pushing him to maintain the optimal lifestyle and diet, along with the Candida formulation, and he came right. And it took time. And this is a mistake many people make when they recover. They think they're cured, but it doesn't work like that. You know, you just have to keep on keeping on for a little while longer until you are fully recovered. So how do you separate a good quality product from junk? Well, the key for acing a good quality natural medicine is to use the best quality product made from top quality raw materials. And some of the things that I can vouch for from my expertise are tablets in this case. Tablets for parasites work better than capsules. I've known this consistently, and it's the same with Candida. We could have easily made a capsule instead of a tablet, but the outcome wouldn't be the same. Tablets provide sustained release more effectively than capsules in this regard. So when you swallow the tablet, your digestive system doesn't get immediate access to everything, but over a period of a few hours. It slowly breaks down in your gut. That way it targets multiple parts of the GI tract. It hits all the parasites and bacteria right from the mouth and keeps working all the way through the small bowel, the large bowel, and to the back passage. Different parasite infections are eradicated by different natural supplements. So you can't just sit there and buy supplement after supplement after supplement. This is a very expensive and time-consuming process, and you'll never know what really worked, will you? That's why a broad spectrum formulation that's got all of these ingredients already built into it and in sustained release form is the way to go. The other thing I'd like to mention is that you need to really think about standardized ingredients. So standardization means that each time you take that tablet, you're getting a consistent therapeutic dose. It doesn't vary in potency from batch to batch, which is often the case in non-standardized ingredients. It's a bit like how pharmaceuticals are made, exact. Every time you put gas in your car, right, you imagine one time the gas was low quality, the other time the gas was high quality, and another time you don't know what you're getting, diesel or water or Dr. Pepper in your gas tank. Well, the car's not going to perform that well, is it? Well, pharmaceuticals are made to an exacting standard, and also many good quality dietary supplements are made to an exacting standard, which means every time you take that tablet you get the same effect. We call it standardized. So many times my patients had come to me complained about not seeing good results even after consuming hundreds of supplements over a long period of time. And that's because grocery stores like Walgreens and Walmart, these places, and iHerb, they're full of junk. There's so much junk out there. Too many supplements are filled with fake ingredients. Now, that's not my opinion. It's a fact. In 2015, the New York Attorney General Office conducted 390 tests on a wide range of dietary supplements. They gathered bottles from the shelves of 4 large retail stores in North America. These were GNC, Target, Walmart, and Walgreens. Then they sent the bottles over to a lab and DNA tested every single tablet to see if the ingredients matched the label, and guess what they found? It was interesting. Only 21% of the products actually had the herbs advertised on the bottle. 79% didn't contain any of the herbs and were full of crap, like rice powder and even wheat. I mean, gluten, come on. And even CNBC reported this incident. So it doesn't stop there. One survey done by the FDA found 68% of supplements tested didn't even have the main ingredient advertised on the bottle. For example, a St. John's wort supplement contained senna, a laxative that can cause Yeah, well, anal blistering, not so nice, is it? Imagine taking something like that when you've already got a gut problem, right? This is why I tell patients to avoid generic brand supplements from places like Amazon or iHerb without any prior research. So the way you find a good dietary supplement is by asking these questions. Where did the product come from? Where did the company get the raw materials from? What kind of research has gone into this product's development? Are there any preservatives in the product? Is it organic? How many chemicals are in there? Did the ingredients come from places which I don't really want to visit, the bad countries or stuff like that, with very dubious quality control systems? Was the product formulated by someone who's an expert in the area, or was it formulated by someone who sits behind a computer? Has it been tested and proven to work on specific problems? Can you actually go online and read other people's independent reviews on this product? And do they provide extensive education about dosage and the best way to use this product? So driven by these questions, I started out and created my own formulations to my standards. The first product I ever I created many products, but the first product I created for the Candida, parasites and SIBO was Candida Remove. So Remove is an advanced 12-ingredient anti-parasite, antifungal, antibacterial formulation based on my 30 plus years of experience working with tens of thousands of people in my New Zealand clinic, but more predominantly online in Skype with people in over 50 to 60 countries. We've had patients from all over EU, we've had patients from every state in North America, we had patients even from Antarctica, we've had a patient. So anywhere people could connect up with me, we had a connection and we had consultations. I think the strangest one I had was two nuns on one of the Himalayan mountain overlooking the Himalayas in the middle of winter. That was quite an unusual consultation. So I've seen quite a few people with gut problems, as you can imagine. So Candida Remove is the only formula of its kind, and in my opinion, of course it's my personal opinion, it's one of the most effective gut cleansing products you can currently get online. It's high grade, it's effective, and it's proven. And as I mentioned, it's a sustained release product. Since then, I've also designed a very powerful probiotic enzyme formula which works with Remove, and it's called Candida Restore. It's specifically designed for gut patients. I've made hundreds of videos educating people about these products. I've answered every question that's ever put up to me regarding these products. I believe in complete transparency when it comes to the Candida formulations. Remove, restore, and rebuild. You can go through my videos and testimonials and please decide for yourself if you want to invest in these supplements. As I said, quality is the thing I always look at. It's very expensive to make your own product, believe me. Trust me, I've seen many patients attempt to do it and often end up costing them tens of thousands of dollars, and they went around in circles and went nowhere. There are various resources on my channel that can guide you, when it comes to choosing. So as we reach the end of this video and we come to the conclusion, I'd like to quickly brush up on what we talked about. We started with laying out the foundations of a parasite infection. We learned something about the statistics of it. I went out and discussed with you why the parasite relapse occurs and what drug resistance is. And for most of the video, however, we spoke about natural ingredients that are proven scientifically to work as anti-parasitic, medicines. In the end, I guided you to navigate your way to finding out the perfect natural supplement for your parasite problem. I spoke about Candida. If you wish to know more about it, feel free to drop by my website, www.candida.com. It's got the X in the middle, which is the X factor. If you have any more questions, then please check the links provided in the description box below. And if you liked this and found it helpful, please leave a comment and share this presentation with other people who might find it useful. I can tell you guys out there are so many people with gut problems that remain unresolved, and it's been such a joy all these years to work with people and see their lives becoming more fulfilled and complete with the correct treatment. And with that, I bid you well, and would like to thank you so much for watching my presentation. All the best.